you very much for your time today, Secretary of State. Firstly, it's been over a year now since you've been in government. Would you be able to tell me what you think your greatest single achievement in your role as Secretary of State for Education has been?
So I think the focus on the early years, but in terms of one specific achievement, the fact that we're rolling out free school meals to 500,000 more children from next year. The reason I'm so proud of that is it will make a huge difference to families, but it will also lift 100,000 children out of poverty. There's a lot more we need to do on that front. And that's why I'm clear in this deputy leadership contest that tackling child poverty is my number one priority.
So you're also running for the deputy leader of the Labour Party. That role, and the role of the deputy prime minister, is often thought historically to have been shaped by the person who has the role. So how would you shape the role, and what direction would you take it in?
I'd want to build on the legacy of Angela Rayner, people like John Prescott and Harriet Harman. They were a strong voice for members in government. They had a seat at the table when big decisions were being made, and they had an important role in uniting our party and our movement. That's what I would do as deputy leader. Take members' voices right to the heart of government, so the heart and soul of Labour in government, but they're at the table, able to get things done. And I think members can look at my track record over the last year, whether that's bringing back new targeted maintenance grants for our college and university students, expanding free school meals, rolling out new free breakfast clubs. That's the difference I've been making in line with our values, and I know members want to see more.
And there is unfortunately a certain amount of disillusionment among the membership currently. How are you aiming to fix that?
I want members to be proud when they're out knocking on doors, and I'm here today in London about to go campaigning with members here. You know, we do face threats from the Greens and the Lib Dems as well as from Reform, so we have to can hold to our values, we have to be a campaigning force, and what members will see from me is someone out in the doors across the country with them. But if we're going to succeed, if we're going to beat our opponents next year in the vital elections we've got coming up, then we're going to have to work together. We're going to have to unite. We can't afford costly distractions, throwing stones from the outside. We've got to focus on selling Labour's story and being positive in our message.
You mentioned upcoming elections. There was an MRP poll last week that was pretty devastating for almost everyone except Reform. It had your party losing hundreds of seats, including your own, according to that poll. To a certain extent, I think you wouldn't necessarily disagree. You need to turn the ship around. How do you do that? How do you get the public back on side?
Look, polls represent a snapshot in time. They're not a prediction of the future, and it's all in our hands. We've got crucial elections coming up in May in Wales, Scotland, and right across England, including here in London as well. So we need to sell Labour's positive story, be confident and positive about the things that we have done. You know, I've been clear we haven't got everything right in that first year of the Labour government, but the difference that I would bring as deputy leader is that I'm someone who'll be able to be getting things done in government, sat at the table, bringing Labour's heart and soul into government, not from the outside throwing stones.
What is that positive story you're trying to sell to, say, someone who's considering voting Reform, someone who perhaps voted Labour in the past? What's the pitch to them?
It's about our country's best days being ahead of us and not behind us. That sense of national renewal that, you know, we have achieved a lot in the last year as a government. There's a lot more to do, especially where it comes to some of those barriers that hold people back. So when you look at the work I'm doing in government, that's about how we make sure that a child or young person, their future isn't determined by their circumstances or their background. And that's why I am really proud of the progress we're making on tackling child poverty, on expanding opportunities to apprenticeships, to further education colleges, and much more besides.
Of course, there was a recent poll of Labour members regarding the Labour leadership race that showed you some distance behind Lucy Powell. To some extent, commentary around the election has been seen as it being a proxy battle between kind of the Prime Minister, with you as his candidate, and Andy Burnham. Do you feel, to any extent, as a kind of victim of perhaps the Prime Minister's unpopularity?
I'm my own person in this contest, running a strong campaign. I've got really strong support from our MPs, from our members, but also from our trade union movement as well. So I think I'm the candidate best placed to bring all of that together, to bring our members, our MPs and our movement together, but inside government, uniting as a party, taking the fight to Reform and beating them.
You mentioned the trade unions. Sharon Graham of Unite made comments at Labour conference saying it was getting harder and harder to justify the affiliation with Labour. Is there a serious risk to your party of losing the support of the unions?
Well, the trade unions are critical to the Labour Party, both our past and our future. There would be no Labour Party without our trade unions, so I would want to make sure that all of those voices from our affiliated trade unions are heard at the cabinet table, but that's what I could bring. Because I'll have a role within government, not being outside of government, I'll be able to make sure that trade union voices, as well as our members' voices, are far more effectively heard.
So you mentioned, interestingly, you'll have a role in government. Is that to say that Lucy Powell, should she become deputy leader, won't be sat around a cabinet table?
Well, it would be highly unusual to have a deputy leader who wasn't a member of the government. That's not the way things are usually done. And I think having a deputy leader sat at the cabinet table, able to bring together the voices of members in our movement and bring that voice into government, is essential.
So would there be a sort of mini reshuffle if she was brought back onto the front bench?
That there isn't, that's for the Prime Minister, but Lucy Powell herself has said that she wouldn't be inside government.
Of course, a few people at your conference, Wes Streeting, notably said he wanted Angela Rayner back playing a more prominent role. Is that something you want as well?
Angela is a big loss to this government. She, had to take that decision to step aside, but I do miss her presence. We worked together really effectively on lots of areas like children's social care. She was a big force in government. I'm sure she'll be back with us, but those are decisions for the Prime Minister to take.
And can I just ask, have you always paid full and proper stamp duty whenever you bought a property?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. And one name that was on the lips of a lot of people at your conference was Nigel Farage. Is there one thing that you could say that you like or admire about Nigel Farage?
I think he's a very divisive figure who wants to stoke division rather than solve problems in our country. But he is effective at the arguments he's making, and he seeks to make.
Do you think there's something that other parties could learn from him in his communication style?
I think whilst you can admire the way someone can make an argument, I would question whether the argument he's advancing is in the best interests of our country, because I think the logical conclusion of where he will take us is to be a more divided country, to be a country where he seeks to highlight problems without the means or the will to actually fix them.
The Tories today have announced if they were to get into government, they'd be taking the country out of the ECHR. Do you have a response to that?
Look, I think this and what they'd set out yesterday around, clean energy, green jobs, I think just demonstrates the drift into irrelevance of the Conservatives, how they're chasing reform and are a long, long way away from the Conservative Party of many, many years.
One final question. It's been a rough month for Morgan McSweeney, the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff. He's been recently cleared with regards to donation irregularities with his Labour Together group. It was also noted that he was largely pushing for Lord Mandelson to be put into the role of ambassador to the US. Do you support Morgan? Does he have your full support in his role?
Yes. What I would say is that for any member of staff, it's always difficult because they're not able to speak for themselves, and that would apply in this case here. They're not able to speak publicly. They operate in a role where that's behind the scenes, and that does mean it can be more difficult for people to defend themselves. But Morgan has had a critical role to play in our journey into government and is a critical part of this government.
And you see that continuing? You want that to continue?
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thanks.